Hello everyone. I want to thank you for your time and interest in viewing my presentation. The content for this presentation was derived from a firm analysis that I conducted on a company called Lululemon Athletica. As part of the agenda, we'll briefly discuss the background of the company, discuss their purpose and vision, and then we'll dive into internal and external problems as well as offering viable solutions, and then finally we'll conclude the presentation. Lululemon was founded in 1998 by a man named Chip Wilson in Vancouver, Canada. Now, Chip Wilson really capitalized on pioneering the yoga pants trend during that time for women. Now, the goal with Lululemon was to offer products that were highly innovative, high quality, but in conjunction with that, also very fashionable and comfortable. In order to achieve this, Lululemon invested heavy amounts of capital in research and development, or R&D. The outcome was that Lululemon began to produce very high quality, proprietary and exclusive fabrics to the Lululemon brand. As Lululemon grew over the years, they started to, build a very strong brand reputation, and then became very renowned for athletic apparel that was not only functional but also fashionable. Lululemon's mission statement, or as they refer to as their purpose, is "We elevate human potential by helping people feel their best." Also, their vision states that we create transformative products and experiences that build meaningful connections, unlocking greater possibility and well-being for all. Notice that those statements are very inclusive. The first external problem that we want to talk about is economic factors. Now, Lululemon and their apparel brand is a non-essential item. So through periods of economic expansion and economic downturns, whether that be growth or contraction, consumer patterns, spending patterns, they shift. So when you have a period of an economic downturn, people with discretionary funds or disposable income may not necessarily put that toward non-essential items. So that proposes a threat to Lululemon. Lululemon also has to consider income levels, employment rates, and the overall economic stability of the markets that they're in, because those factors can influence purchasing power. Lululemon is a high-end brand with a premium pricing strategy, and premium pricing strategies are definitely influenced by fluctuations in inflation and exchange rates. Lululemon serves products all across the globe, and how they factor those prices for their products internationally is very much heavily influenced by either the strength or the weakness of the Canadian dollar, given that Lululemon is a Canadian-based company. Now, for the purpose of the analysis, I analyzed Lululemon over the last 4 years. So that's 2020 to 2023. Now, if you look right here on their net revenue chart, let's just focus on 2020 through 2023. Their net revenue took a significant period of growth. They grew every single year following 2020. Significant trending growth. Now, for the trend analysis purpose, I analyzed 4 ratios: return on equity, current ratio, return on assets, and net profit margin. And when I compare these ratios, I compared them against 2 other competitors with sharing the same SIC code, and those competitors were Under Armour and Columbia Sportswear. I chose them not only because they had the same SIC code, but they also shared the same asset base in terms of athletic apparel as Lululemon. Now, what was interesting is that 2020 to 2023 was definitely a time of economic downturn. You had the COVID-19 pandemic, and then you came out of that, you went into a period of high inflation rates. So with that, mentioned specifically for this presentation and the analysis, it's interesting to note that Lululemon was able to generate profit through shareholder investment, was able to manage its assets and pay off short-term liabilities, was able to turn over and manage its assets very well and create profit, but also in net profit margin was able, and I measured that one because you deduce interest, cost of goods sold, and taxes. Lululemon actually outperformed its direct competitors through a period of economic contraction. So as of right now, its premium pricing strategies seem to work. Now we have to factor in that health and fitness trends were on the rise during the pandemic and during this period as well. So the solutions or suggestions that we could make is that they need to continually invest in product quality and innovation, but they also need to factor in possibly price modifications, just as long as it doesn't have a reduction in value. You know, the analysis heavily cautions about lowering prices too much because Lululemon does not want to be perceived as a lower value fashion, athleisure, and performance wear apparel brand. But if the social trends for health and fitness do not go up during that downturn, it may want to consider price modifications, just as long as it doesn't reduce the value. Now, for external problem number 2, we find this in the analysis to be the biggest threat. Now, you have to factor in health and fitness trends, fashion trends, but also the demographic reach of the company. You know, as in the apparel industry, the market is heavily saturated. So because of that heavy saturation, consumer demands and preferences tend to shift. But also, like I said about health and fitness trends, they're constantly in flux and they shift as well. So when health and fitness trends and fashion trends are rising, you know, it produces really good growth for Lululemon, but if they dip, they have to be able to anticipate and respond to that as well. Also, if their primary focus is on the women's segment while offering little product offerings to men, that may also impact them as well. So a limited demographic focus can affect them. So they have to factor in new upcoming generations, age distribution, and expanding populations. Now, in terms of solution, the analysis believes that they need to expand more product offerings to the men's segment, especially not just in performance wear. They may want to look at footwear, they may want to look at workplace attire, but expanding their demographic reach, especially as their brand is starting to gain popularity with both not just women but men as well, they need to be able to cater to those product offerings to those demographics. Again, continual investment in product innovation and quality. They may also want to consider diversifying their apparel into adjacent fitness activities. This doesn't need to just be for workout space. They may need to look at hiking, golfing, tennis, adjacent fitness activities. And finally, the most important is that they need to continually anticipate consumer preferences and respond to those preferences to offset demand. Now, in terms of the internal problem, the first thing we want to look at is their former CEO and their founder, Chip Wilson. Now, Chip Wilson was very much renowned for making, creating public outrage through insensitive remarks. Let's just say it like that. So there was a period where Lululemon had to recall their most popular yoga pants because consumers were complaining that they were see-through. Chip Wilson's remarks were, some women's bodies just actually don't work for Lululemon pants. To add to that, he also said, without being insensitive, he said that it's really about rubbing through the thighs, how much pressure there is over time, and how much they use it. His implications were, my product goes for a specific body type over another. He also made outlandish comments saying that you've got to be clear that you don't want certain customers coming in. That applied to both body type and also race. Another controversy that arose was how Chip derided the name Lululemon. He specifically said that he wanted a company with 3 L's in it because that did not exist within Japanese phonics. Whenever the Canada's National Post business magazine asked him about this, his response was, it's funny to watch them try and say it. So as you can tell, just from, he's had many other insensitive remarks that were made publicly, but this very much not in line with the inclusive statements and core values of the company that is produced through their purpose and their vision. Now, in terms of solutions, Lululemon is on the right strategic trajectory right now, as you can tell through their growth. That is completely attributed to their strong brand reputation. Now, their new CEO, Calvin McDonald, is in line with this, but what we recommend in the analysis is that they don't go too far left in diversity and inclusion as to get out of balance, but they also don't want to go back in terms of the Chip Wilson days. They want to stay right in line and promote diversity and inclusion, but all public communication that comes out of Lululemon needs to be consistent and in line with their core values. This is all in an effort to focus on building their brand reputation and keeping it strong. And finally, the last internal problem is going to be human resources. Now, when we talk about human resources, we want to look at employee satisfaction, employee retention, but also consistency in service. High turnover rates can impact service quality, as well as customer and employee satisfaction and overall output of performance. Organizational culture plays a huge factor in employee retention, but also does a sustainable environment that's conducive to the mission and values of the company. Solutions that we want to offer Lululemon is 4 points. Invest in comprehensive training and mentorships. That way that they ensure consistent high quality service, and we want to develop their leadership development. Employee engagement. Lululemon needs to foster a positive work environment through it's recommended by this analysis is servant leadership, open communication, and opportunities for feedback. Also, Lululemon needs to continue to offer competitive, if not comparable, compensation and benefits, but also continuity will play a huge factor in employee retention, as they need to create clear pathways and succession plans to encourage long-term employee commitment and fill leadership positions internally. To conclude, as Lululemon navigates external and internal challenges within the apparel industry, brand reputation and meeting those consumer demands is absolutely essential. Consumer value placement on quality and product innovation is both Lululemon's greatest strength and greatest weakness. This is why it's recommended across all the solutions that they continually invest in product quality and product innovation. Thank you for your time and watching my presentation.